There's a man I want you to meet. We'll call him Marcus. And the day the story starts is the day Marcus quit his job. Not a bad job either. $61,000 a year. Benefits. A boss who liked him. He walked into that office on a Tuesday and handed in his notice, and he felt something most people spend their whole lives waiting to feel. He felt free. Because Marcus had spent 8 months watching videos. You've seen them. The ones with the thumbnail of a guy leaning on a nice car, arms crossed, a number floating next to his head. 6 businesses that make money while you sleep. 6 businesses that will get you out of poverty. And Marcus believed them. Why wouldn't he? The math looked so clean. Buy the machine. Place the machine. Collect the money. Repeat until you never have to set an alarm again. So he cashed out his savings. He drained the emergency fund. He told his wife it would be tight for a year, and then it would never be tight again. Now let me show you Marcus 18 months later. He's sitting at his kitchen table at 11 at night. There's a spreadsheet open on his laptop. And for the first time, he's actually done the thing none of those videos ever asked him to do. He's added up the hours. Not the money, the hours. Every hour he spent driving to restock a vending machine. Every hour answering a message from an Airbnb guest who couldn't find the lockbox at midnight. Every hour on the phone with a supplier in a different time zone. Every hour scrubbing a car wash bay because the attendant quit. And when he divides the money he made by the hours he actually worked, he gets a number. An hourly wage. It's less than he made at the job he quit. Here's the part one need you to understand, because it's the whole reason this video exists. Marcus didn't fail because passive income is a scam. Some of it is real. He failed because nobody ever told him what the word passive actually costs. So today we're going to do what those videos never do. We're going to take the exact same 6 businesses they sell you. Car washes, vending machines, short-term rentals, dropshipping, digital products, and laundromats. And we're going to put a number on each one. Not a revenue number. An hours number. And by the end, you're going to know something Marcus didn't. Because one of these 6 is genuinely, almost magically passive. And it is not the one those videos push the hardest. In fact, the business they push the hardest is the least passive of all of them. Here's the phrase I want you to hold on to for the next half hour. Passive income still has an employee. It's just off the books. And most of the time, that employee is you. A Max. On this channel, I don't sell you the dream. I open it up and show you the wiring behind it. And if this is the kind of thing you want to see more of, the version where somebody actually runs the numbers before you spend your savings, subscribing genuinely helps. That's the whole ask. Now, here's the paradox I want to sit with for a second, because it's stranger than it looks. 2 completely different YouTube channels, different creators, different audiences, no connection to each other. Put out nearly identical videos. 6 businesses that run themselves. Same 6 ideas. Same promise. And both of them did enormous numbers. That tells you something. It's not a coincidence. It's a formula. And the formula works because it's selling the single most seductive idea in personal finance. Money without time. That's the fantasy. You do the work once and then you get paid forever. And I understand why it's seductive, because underneath it is a real and reasonable desire. People are tired. People want their time back. There is nothing wrong with wanting that. The problem isn't the desire. The problem is that the word passive has been quietly redefined to mean something it doesn't. When those videos say passive, you hear no work, but that's not what passive means. Passive doesn't mean no work. It means the work is invisible, deferred, or delegated. Somebody is still doing it. The only question, the entire question, is who and how much and whether that person is you. So let's run the 6 in order, and let's find out where the employee is hiding in each one. We'll start where Marcus started. The automated car wash. On paper, this is the dream in its purest form. A machine washes the car. The customer pays the machine. The machine keeps the money. No employees. No inventory that spoils. People will always have dirty cars. What could possibly go wrong? And I'll be honest with you, the top-line numbers are real. A self-service car wash in a decent location can clear somewhere between $40,000 and $150,000 a year, And the profit margins on a well-run one are genuinely high, often 30 to 50% because the biggest cost of most businesses' labor is almost gone. Almost. That's the word doing all the work. Here's what the videos leave out. A self-service car wash isn't staffed by a full team. That's true. But the standard operating model still needs one part-time attendant, running somewhere around 15 to 25 hours a week. Or the owner steps in and becomes that attendant himself. And what is that attendant doing? Emptying the trash, cleaning out the vacuum dirt traps, restocking the soap and the wax and the vending supplies, washing down the bay walls, handling the customer whose card got eaten by the machine, collecting the cash. None of that is glamorous. And more importantly, none of it stops. The machine doesn't take a week off. The trash doesn't stop filling up because you went on vacation. So let's do the math the way Marcus eventually learned to do it. Let's put a dollar figure on the hidden employee. Say the car wash nets Marcus $60,000 in a year. Great number. Now say he's covering the attendant role himself to save money. Because that's what new owners almost always do. And that's 20 hours a week. 20 hours a week across a year is a little over 1,000 hours. $60,000 divided by 1,000 hours is about $60 an hour. And you might think that's still good. And it is if it stops there. But it rarely stops there because that $60,000 assumes the equipment is running. And the single most expensive fact about a car wash is that it is a building full of high-pressure pumps, motors, and hydraulics that break constantly. When a pump fails on a Saturday, your busiest day, you are not a passive investor anymore. You are a man standing in a flooded bay calling a repair tech who charges a premium because it's the weekend. So the verdict on the car wash. Is it passive? No. Is it semi-passive if you have the capital to hire the attendant and the maintenance contract and you accept a lower margin in exchange for your time? Yes. That version exists. But that version costs money to buy back your hours. The passive version in the video, the one where you just collect, is a version where you are the employee. You just didn't put yourself on the payroll. Passive income still has an employee. Marcus was the employee. He just didn't know it yet. Number 2. The one Marcus was most excited about. Vending machines. This is the poster child of the whole genre. There is an entire ecosystem of videos and courses built around the idea that you buy a machine, you put it in a busy hallway, and it quietly prints money while you sleep. Some of these courses will even set the whole thing up for you, for a fee. We'll come back to that fee. First, the reality of the money, because this is where the fantasy takes the most damage. A single, decently placed vending machine does not make you rich. Across 5 separate industry sources, the numbers land in almost exactly the same place. A typical machine grosses somewhere between a couple hundred and maybe $500 a month in sales. And after you subtract the cost of the product, the commission you pay the location owner, the card processing fees, and the fuel to drive there, the actual profit that lands in your pocket is usually between $100 and $300 a month. Per machine. Read that again. One machine in a good spot might net you $200 a month. So the entire business model isn't one machine. It's a fleet. To replace a real income, you don't need a machine. You need 20, 30, 40 machines. And the moment you have 40 machines, you no longer have a passive income stream. You have a logistics company. You have a route. Now let's put the hidden employee on the clock, because vending gives us the cleanest number in this whole video. The industry benchmark, and this comes straight from operators, not gurus, is roughly 2 hours per week per machine. That covers restocking, collecting the cash, checking the machine is working, and the drive time between stops. 2 hours a week per machine. So let's say Marcus, chasing a real income, builds a route of 10 machines. 10 machines at $200 of profit each is $2,000 a month. Not bad. But 10 machines at 2 hours a week each is 20 hours a week. 20 hours a week is a serious part-time job. $2,000 a month is $24,000 a year. Divide that by the roughly 1,000 hours he spends servicing the route. And Marcus is earning about $24 an hour to drive around a city refilling chip machines and pulling quarters out of coin boxes. That's not passive income. That's a delivery job you also had to pay $50,000 to create. And here's the counter-argument. because I promised you I'd be fair. Vending can work. There are real operators running large, well-optimized routes making genuine money. But every single one of them will tell you the same thing. It is not passive, it is a route business, and the money is in the operational discipline, not in the machine. The machine is the cheapest, least important part of the whole thing. The verdict on vending: semi-passive at best, and only at a scale where it's a real job. As a single machine money while you sleep, play, it is one of the most oversold ideas in the entire category. Passive income still has an employee. In vending, the employee is a driver. And Marcus was the driver. Number 3. This is where the story gets dramatic, because this is the one that nearly broke Marcus. The short-term rental. The Airbnb. On this channel, we've gone deep on the economics of this one before, so I'll keep the money side quick and spend our time where the fantasy really falls apart: the hours. The pitch is beautiful. You have a spare property or you rent one to sublet, and travelers pay you a premium every night to stay in it. Hotels charge $200 a night, so why shouldn't you? Money while you sleep, literally, because your guests are sleeping in the thing that makes the money. Here is the number the pitch never shows you. When you ask actual hosts how many hours a week a single property takes to manage, not run a survey, just ask them directly, the answers are staggering. In the low season, hosts report something like 10 to 12 hours a week for one property. And in high season, when they're booked nearly solid, that same single property can eat close to 40 hours a week. 40 hours. That is a full-time job. For one apartment. Where does all that time go? It goes to 1,000 invisible tasks. The guest who messages at 11:45 at night because they can't find the lockbox. The turnover between guests, cleaning or coordinating the cleaner, checking the supplies, confirming the schedule, making sure nobody walks into an unmade bed. The review that has to be answered within the hour or your ranking drops. The toilet that clogs 20 minutes before the next check-in. The smoke detector chirping at 2 a.m. because the battery's low, and the guest calling you about it. The platform itself expects you to reply to guests within an hour. Within an hour. That is not a business you own. That is a business that owns your phone. So let's build Marcus's crisis, because this is the middle of his story and it's the moment the whole plan came apart. Marcus didn't rent one. Chasing scale, he signed leases on 3 apartments to sublet as short-term rentals. 3 properties. And in the summer peak season, each one is demanding 20, 30, 40 hours of attention. He is now working more hours than he ever worked at the $61,000 job. Except now there's no salary, no benefits, and no off switch. When a guest has a problem at midnight, it is his problem at midnight. And then the city changed the rules. Because short-term rentals live and die by local regulation, and that regulation can flip against you overnight. A cap on how many nights you can rent, a registration requirement, a fine measured in thousands of dollars a day. Marcus didn't own an asset. He owned a permission slip that somebody at City Hall could revoke. The verdict: the short-term rental is not passive. It is, at its most honest, self-employment as a part-time hotel manager, with a regulatory landmine buried under the floor. Can be profitable. But the person who calls it passive has either never done it or is trying to sell you the course. Passive income still has an employee. Here, the employee is a hotel manager, a cleaner, and a customer service rep, all of them Marcus all at once at midnight. Number 4. And this is the payoff of a promise I made you at the start. I told you the business those videos push the hardest is the least passive of all of them. This is it. Dropshipping. Of all 6, this is the one sold most aggressively as a laptop lifestyle. Work from a beach. Sell products you never touch. A supplier ships them, you just run the store. The physical product never passes through your hands, so it feels like there's almost nothing to do. Let me tell you what's actually on the other side of that laptop. First, the survival rate, because you need this number before anything else. The overwhelming majority of dropshipping stores, the figure cited across the industry is somewhere between 80 and 90%, do not survive their first year. 9 out of 10. This isn't a business where you show up and collect. It's a business where you are far more likely to lose your setup money than to build anything at all. And for the tiny fraction that do survive and stabilize, the time doesn't disappear. It moves. A stable, established store still runs on something like 10 to 15 hours a week, and that's the optimistic, automated version. In the beginning, before it's stable, operators consistently report 20, 30, even more hours a week. What are those hours? They are the parts nobody films. Answering customer service messages, because when the supplier ships a broken item, the angry customer emails you, not them. Processing refunds and returns. Constant product research, because the winning product stops winning and you have to find the next one. Managing ad spend, which is a job in itself. Testing hooks, killing the losers, watching your margins. And checking the automation, because the day your order syncing breaks over a weekend, you wake up to 60 unprocessed orders and a support inbox full of people who want their money back. So the money, even an established, stable store, one of the survivors, typically nets somewhere between $1,000 and $5,000 a month. That's a real range. But run it against the hours. Say Marcus is one of the lucky survivors, netting $3,000 a month, working the honest 15 hours a week. $3,000 a month is $36,000 a year. Divide it by the roughly 780 hours he works, and he's earning around $46 an hour in the best case, as one of the few who didn't fail. But that number is a survivorship illusion, and this is the point. It only describes the 1 in 10. For the other 9, the real hourly wage is negative. They put in the hundreds of hours and the setup money, and they walk away with less than they started with. Here's the twist that should stay with you. Remember those courses that will set the whole thing up for you? The person selling you the dropshipping course has, in fact, found a genuinely passive income stream. It's the course. You are the customer. The most reliable money in dropshipping is made by the people teaching dropshipping. The verdict: dropshipping is the least passive business on this entire list. It is a marketing job, a customer service job, and a full-time gamble dressed up as a beach vacation. Passive income still has an employee. In dropshipping, the employee is a customer service rep, an ad buyer, and a full-time marketer. And 9 times out of 10, that employee works for free. Number 5. And here the story finally gets more nuanced, because this is the one where the fantasy is closest to being true, and still isn't, for a reason nobody warns you about. The digital product, the online course, the ebook, the template pack. You build it once, the pitch goes, and then it sells forever. You're not shipping anything. There's no inventory, no supplier, no machine to break. Pure margin, infinite copies, zero marginal cost. Of the 6, this is the one with the strongest theoretical claim to being passive. And I want to be fair because there's real truth in it. A digital product genuinely can sell while you sleep. The copy costs nothing to make. That part is not a lie. But here's what the build it once story hides. Talk to the people who've actually done this, creators with years of real data, not gurus, and a consistent number comes back. A successful course still takes something like 5 to 10 hours a week to maintain. Every week. For years. 5 to 10 hours doing what if the product's already built? Answering student questions. Updating the material when the thing you're teaching changes, and everything changes. Handling the refund requests. Re-recording the module that's now out of date. And above all, marketing, because a digital product that nobody markets sells nothing at all. The build was never the hard part. The forever part is the hard part. And now the number that changes the whole picture, because it's not just the hours, it's who has to work them. Say Marcus builds a course and it does well, netting him $30,000 a year at 8 hours a week. That's about $577 a week of profit for 8 hours of work. Roughly $72 an hour. On paper, the best hourly rate on this entire list. So why isn't this the winner? Here's the trap, and it's a subtle one. Those 8 hours cannot be delegated. The car wash attendant can be hired. The vending route can be handed to a driver. But the person answering the student's question, updating the lesson, appearing in the marketing, that has to be the creator. It's their expertise, their face, their voice. The product isn't really the file. The product is you, and you don't scale, and you can't be replaced without the whole thing losing its value. So the digital product doesn't trap you in hours the way the car wash does. Traps you in identity. You are the asset. And an asset that has to keep showing up, personally, forever, is a strange kind of passive. The verdict: The digital product is the most genuinely scalable of the six, and the closest to real passive income in its economics. But it's semi-passive, not passive, and the employee it hides can never be anyone but you. Passive income still has an employee. Here, the employee is the one person you can never fire. Yourself. Number 6. The last one. And this is the payoff of the very first promise I made you. That one of these 6 is genuinely, almost boringly close to passive, and that it is not the one those videos sell the hardest. It's the laundromat. The unattended laundromat, specifically. The least sexy business on the entire list. Nobody makes a thumbnail leaning on a Lamborghini next to a row of washing machines. And that, it turns out, is exactly the point. Let me show you the numbers because they're quietly remarkable. According to the Coin Laundry Association, a laundromat is one of the few businesses that genuinely lends itself to absentee ownership. An all-coin self-service laundromat, no wash and fold, no drop-off, no attendant, needs almost no on-site labor. What does it actually require? Someone to clean the place and empty the trash a couple of times a day, and someone to collect the money from the machines 2 or 3 times a week. That's it. That's the job. Owners routinely run these while keeping their day job. Many owners have more than one, precisely because a single one doesn't demand their presence. The income is famously stable. People do laundry in a boom and in a recession, so the revenue barely flinches when the economy shakes. And the margins, once the equipment is paid off, are strong. So let's put the hidden employee on the clock one last time and watch what happens. An unattended laundromat might take, generously, a few hours a week. Collecting the coins, a wipe down, restocking soap, call it 5 hours a week. And a well-run laundromat can net anywhere from a modest supplemental income to well over $100,000 a year at a large, busy location. Say Marcus finally buys the boring one, and it nets him $50,000 a year at 5 hours a week. 5 hours a week is about 260 hours a year. $50,000 divided by 260 hours is about $190 an hour. Look at that number next to the others. The car wash was 60. The vending route was 24. The laundromat, the one nobody makes a hype video about, is nearly $200 an hour of the owner's time. Not because the laundromat makes the most money. It doesn't. But because it demands the least of your hours to make it. And that is the whole secret of passive income in one comparison. It was never about which business makes the most revenue. It's about which business makes money with the fewest of your hours attached to it. The metric that matters isn't dollars. It's dollars per hour of your life. Now, the honest counter-argument, because a laundromat is not free money either. The equipment is expensive to buy in. A water heater can fail. A machine floods. It is location-dependent, and a bad location will sink it. And even here, if you add wash and fold or drop-off service to chase more revenue, you've just hired the very employee we've been hunting for this whole video. You've made it attended, and it stops being passive. The passive version is specifically the boring, all-coin, unglamorous one. But within its lane, run the boring way, the laundromat is the closest thing on this list to the dream those videos are actually selling. And it's the one they mention least because buy a boring box of washing machines and check on it twice a week doesn't sell a $49 course. That's the resolution of Marcus's story. After the car wash, the vending route, the 3 apartments, and the dropshipping store, after all of it, the thing that finally gave him his time back was the least exciting business he ever looked at. So let's line them up one last time and look at what we actually found. The automated car wash. Not passive, semi-passive if you pay to buy back your hours. The vending machines. A route business, a real part-time job, wildly oversold as one machine printing money. The short-term rental. A part-time hotel job with a regulatory landmine, at its most honest. Dropshipping. The least passive of them all, a marketing gamble that 9 in 10 people lose, sold the hardest of any of them. The digital product. The closest in its economics, but it traps you in identity. You become the asset you can't delegate. And the laundromat. The boring one, the quiet one, the one nobody hypes, and the only one that comes close to the actual dream. Notice the pattern. The businesses sold the loudest were the least passive. The business sold the quietest was the most. That inversion is not an accident. The loud ones sell courses. The quiet one just sells clean laundry. And here's the thing I most want you to take with you, the thing Marcus paid 18 months and his savings to learn. When someone shows you a passive income business, don't ask how much money it makes. Everyone lies or at least rounds up about the money. Ask a different question. Ask, where is the employee? Because there is always an employee. In every one of these 6, somebody is doing the work. Restocking, cleaning, answering, marketing, driving, showing up. The only question that ever mattered is whether that person is you and whether you were counted. Passive income still has an employee. It's just off the books. And the difference between a business that frees you and a business that quietly enslaves you is nothing more than whether you did the honest math before you signed, the math on the hours, not just the dollars. Marcus does that math now before anything. He wishes he'd done it 18 months earlier. You get to do it tonight for free before you spend $1. If this changed how you look at one of those thumbnails, the guy leaning on the car with the number floating next to his head, then do me a favor and subscribe, because the next one we take apart might be the exact one you were about to buy into. Max, run the hours before you run the numbers. I'll see you in the next one.